is phenomenal.
All right, there we are. We're live, boys.
That dude with the spoon.
Oh, okay.
He's phenomenal.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
A few minutes late.
Hello, hey,
Technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties.
But we are live now.
We are live. That's awesome.
Technically difficult.
Oh, that was crazy.
Good job.
Had to install software, had to do all kinds of crazy things, and finally got it to connect. I don't even know if this is even working. I haven't even checked all of our technical stuff.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Take time. Check it out.
Everything's working.
Thank you all for joining us. Assuming that you're there and can hear us.
Yeah, it looks like, yep.
Assuming that we're on. All right. There we go.
And I've got everything set up there, the TV.
Yeah.
So things will pop up. And
Oh, that was annoying. You know, this is why we need to raise some money to hire a technical director. So send your money now to this number on the screen.
or number 8. Reason
But
number
we need
8.
to turn the volume up.
What's that?
We need to turn the volume up because you can hardly,
Who can hardly hear?
when you listen to it on YouTube,
Really?
Oh, maybe the gain?
the gain.
I don't know.
Let's give it a little more gain.
I didn't check the gain. I didn't check the
Did
setting
you
of
try?
that.
See, look how high that volume is on there.
Oh, there we
All
go.
right, well, that's good then.
I think we're good. We'll try it this week.
Just
and see.
gain. We just need more gain like so.
Maybe just turn the volume up on your computer. If you can't hear it, turn it up. Volume up.
Yeah. So,
All right. Well, I know last time we ended with a raging dispute between you two about guns and violence and the age.
yes, Ward
of
was
the
making
thing.
a ridiculous argument that.
Wait, you have to be more specific.
Well, I was going to say, because he makes fun of it.
Situated that?
Oh, yeah.
So Ward was making a ridiculous argument that we need to raise the age of guns.
No.
Raise the age of
Raise
guns?
the age of people. Raise the
You
age
can't
for
buy them until the gun's 21 years old.
until they get 21. We need to raise the age of for people to buy guns at 21 years old, and
Yes.
they had to have parents in order. You had mom and dad at home.
No,
The guns have to have parents?
Well, the guns had to have parents too.
The guns have to be 21.
The guns have to be 20.
Yeah.
But the people who buy guns have to have at 18. They need to have mom and dad at home in order to instruct them on why they should have guns or not.
And that was your summary of Ward's.
Right.
Did he summarize your argument?
And this
fairly?
is
Is that a fair summary?
Well, this is why he doesn't do well in classes.
Oh, purple! Wow, there's a lawsuit happening right there.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So Ward was
You
making.
did- Is that a fair summary?
Repeating
Ward was
classes.
making a fallacious argument. Go ahead and finish. With
Is
your
that a
fallacious
fair
argument.
summary of your argument?
It is not.
Okay, summarize your argument for yourself then.
All right. Well, if we can make sure that we can think through the issue versus relying on emotion.
He doesn't even know what his argument is.
Wow.
You're stalling.
I know.
No stalling at all.
Trying not to make it.
Yeah, here we go. See, we need to raise the age of buying a gun to 21. Now, my main argument is that the rebuttals to that. One of my main arguments.
No. What's your argument? You got to give your argument before you get the rebuttal.
No. 8 raised to
He's
21
right about that, though.
because first, and it's a slap in the face of American parenting. Raising people to be immature and unable to handle things like their emotions.
So
the
argument one
is
kids
that
are immature.
Right?
What's that?
Kids are immature. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just
lousy parent.
Bad
they're
parenting.
immature.
Number one, bad parenting
Bad
means that I
parenting
can't buy a gun.
and immature kids.
No, they're immature and unable to do things because of bad parenting predominantly.
Okay.
And because of
That's
that,
argument one.
That's raise it to 21. That's the main argument for it.
Okay, that's the main argument.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was fairly
There it is.
before
Right,
he
before
represents
I know
this.
before he misrepresents it again and provides irrelevant rebuttals. I understand. No, it's okay.
So is that your point?
Which one? That's my point.
Bad parenting.
Yes.
Raise gun age
And
21
Because people can't handle it.
because kids are immature.
It's 18 is
isn't
predicated
that-
on maturity.
Isn't that a hasty generalization?
No, it's not hasty at all. It's taking time to think about it.
Well, isn't it a hasty generalization in the sense that you're assuming that this reason for raising the age of buying guns pertains to every single person?
No, not at all.
Well, then
Well,
your
what's
argument
18?
falls.
Well, what's 18 predicated on? An arbitrary.
It's arbitrary.
Okay, now that's not totally true though. I
18
understand that there is a law on the books.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called the Militia Act law or something. There's a militia law that establishes the age for militia at 18.
Okay.
So because that law is on the books,
Right.
then it has a constitutional standing of the keep and right to bear arms to establish militias is tied to the age of 18. So
Okay.
I'm just saying that I
is
believe
that's
that's
an interesting
tied to a
point.
law,
Right.
which is why Florida is going to have their position challenged.
Not only challenged, but undermined.
Because there's actually laws that establish 18 as a viable age to.
Okay, I hadn't heard that. That's
so that's
interesting.
actually
So
That's
here's
so
what
it's
I
not
would
quite
grant.
arbitrary.
Here's
Although
what
the
I-
law itself could be deemed
Right,
arbitrary.
right.
Here's what I would
But
grant.
there's a law.
Here's what I would grant.
That's the only thing about it I know about this whole argument.
We don't want to be so foolish as to say that everyone, 11 and 12-year-olds, should have a gun, right? We don't want to be so foolish as to say that because they lack the maturity.
Well, they might, depending on the
Well,
parenting.
depending on parenting, they may
Right.
lack the maturity. And see, if you're going to use the depending argument, then that's going to undermine your
Well,
position
it's
too.
quite appropriate to bring up the parenting because there are 11 and 12-year-olds who pull out
No,
guns.
but okay, here's the thing is,
Yeah.
here's what I'll come in, because Leroy's doing a terrible job.
I'm trying to get
I
to the
actually
point.
don't have much thought of it till just now.
I'm trying to get to the
thinking about
point.
This. I thought he'd get somewhere. So look, the reason 18 is also the age of legal responsibility.
Legal responsibility.
So there's also 18 is also tied to that as well.
Right, right.
So when somebody goes and does that,
That's why they
because
can drink at
legally,
18. Oh,
They
wait
can
a
only drink
minute.
at
No,
21. They can only drink at
no,
21.
but listen,
Okay, go ahead.
drinking has nothing to do with it.
Oh,
The
responsibility.
the age of
Yeah.
legal responsibility is at
Right.
18, so they're legally adults at age 18.
I understand.
So that's the difference between an 11-year-old and 18-year-old. So
Right.
if you're going to say that change it to 21 based on
Some arbitrary
immaturity,
standard.
Uh-huh.
immaturity is arbitrary.
Yes.
In other
Oh, it
words,
is.
How do you?
So it is.
No, but
How do you
Relax.
make a law?
Relax.
How
Go
do,
ahead.
how do you
Relax.
make a
I
law
what
or
is,
standard?
what is the standard in the law that you're going to then have a legal jury to establish maturity, as in like establish well enough to own a gun? I mean, like they don't play video games anymore. What is your legal standard for that? If you're making, you have to also make a legal case for that.
Right.
What is that standard?
Sure. Well, I think it would be similar to the issue of, let's say, drinking. You can't drink at 20 until you're 21 legally, and in some states, even smoke until you're 21. You can't even buy cigarettes till you're 21. Why is that? Those are health issues.
Yeah.
Those are maturity issues, ability to be able to handle alcohol, other people's safety.
Okay.
So
Except those things aren't constitutionally protected rights.
Right.
So the difference
America-
between drinking
Uh-huh.
and gun ownership is, for those that are making the
Is the
argument,
constitutional
is that there's a constitutional right.
protection.
So that's a
no,
different standard
constitutional right for what though?
for owning guns.
That's not the
shall
same.
not infringe.
Hold on. Their owning of gun is not being infringed upon. The buying of a gun is.
That's
I said raise the.
that's
No,
the same thing.
it is not the same thing.
Well, the court seems to say so because
I understand. I am saying there's a difference there. I'm saying you can own one, you just can't
Yeah, but you
buy
can't
it.
just say there's a difference there without having a basis for it. So, what's your legal basis? What sort of case law are you citing to make?
Well, I'm not citing any case law.
Well,
I'm
then
s-
it's-
It's arbitrary.
No,
So-
so I'm citing the need for people to be able to be not be able to go out and buy a gun because of an angry 18-year-old.
Yeah, but that's
but you're making a
rare-
legal argument
I-
without any legal foundation.
What I'm doing is I'm trying to make a case for an age change for it, based on societal needs and where society is at.
But based on
That's it.
maturity level,
Yes.
but you have no,
which is the same thing for
objective measurement.
It's
There's
just-
the
it's not
others-
the same
the
thing
whole point-
because
the whole
one is
point
not
is
one's a
the only
constitutional right.
objective
The only
measure-
point is it's
no.
just arbitrary.
Corey, you must be very excited to have us.
The
disagree.
only thing that's objective, supposedly objective,
two against one, and I'm really
it
digging it.
doesn't matter. Numbers are irrelevant as far as that. Only objective is that the courts have already objective said 18, but that doesn't even mean that they're necessarily mature or
Yes,
adults.
but the
What is
court-
it? No. Same thing applies. Why not change that then?
The court-
Why not change it? What's that based on? That's pretty. It's no less arbitrary than I'm saying for 21.
All I'm saying is that in
It's
the
no less
different parts
arbitrary.
of the country that you live in,
Right.
people get guns very early in life. They do.
I grant
Different-
that, and they can.
based on a different part of the country that you
Right.
live in. If you're in the Midwest,
Right.
you'll get a gun. Your dad will give you a shotgun to go shoot squirrels.
And I
Very
understand
early.
that. I
But
was the recipient of it.
even before you're 18, even
I
before
was the
you're 18.
recipient of that. I
Okay,
understand.
and now what was the difference between you going out and not wanting to mass murder someone It wasn't the gun that you had that made the difference.
I never
was
said
it?
that. I've
Right.
never said they shouldn't be able to have guns.
Right.
I am saying only shouldn't be able to go out and buy a gun until 21. I have not said, suggested, or implied that they shouldn't be able to
So then,
own one
I hear
or
what you're
have
saying.
one.
I hear
Okay.
you. So you're just favoring those who have parents.
I am not
Well,
favoring that.
you-
It is
No,
not.
actually, it would favor
It
them.
would.
No, it is not favoring that at all.
It's an undue
It is.
prejudice for people who are
It
not
is not.
born with parents
How
or
is it
have
not? It is
How
on its
is
face.
it?
You're saying if you can't buy it, but you can own one. So if you have
Right.
parents that buy you one,
It's
you can
not
have
limited
one.
to parents. You can
Or
have
uncle.
uncles.
Yeah.
You can have aunts. You can have a neighbor person who is hopefully responsible. There's
So a neighbor is going to buy a gun and give it to you. That would and
a
that
close
would be
neighbor.
legal?
Absolutely, I had a close neighbor who
You think
gave
that
me a
would make
phone.
it legal?
I don't have a problem
He
with.
doesn't mean legal. He just means that it's okay.
I'm okay with it. I'm totally fine
So
with
really,
it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to make sure
I
it
get what
makes
he,
any sense.
no. Here's what he's saying. He's saying as long as someone outside of you has judged you
Yes.
able and capable,
Right. Yes.
you can get a gun. But see, you're discriminating against those people who don't have people outside of them
It's
that can make
not
that statement.
discrimination.
Okay, so what about some nutty alcoholic parent that says, "Okay, you're a kid, you can have a gun if you
Still a
want."
problem, and that can happen even at 18 years old right now under our laws. We have
So
that.
it doesn't change anything.
No, it does
So
change
this
the thing.
irresponsible people
No,
are still going
in
to
a-
get a gun from irresponsible parents.
In Colorado, when the guy went down as an 18-year-old and he was upset, he bought a shotgun and got a lot of ammo. He couldn't buy handguns. He went down to his high school and he started shooting it up, and one gal was dead because of it. That is the type of situation we're talking about.
Yeah,
because
but-
no one else gave him one because maybe he didn't think he was mature enough.
But the one guy stole them from his mom.
I'm not saying
she was irresponsible to not keep him under lock and key.
Hold on. I'm not saying it's going to solve all the problems. I never said.
I don't think it
just,
solves any problems.
I think it does. The guy in Arapahoe,
Solves
Colorado.
Zero problem.
The guy in Arapahoe, Colorado would not have been able to go down and buy the shotgun and being angry and going down there at 18 years old because he didn't have one and people weren't giving him one. It is just one cent.
So the whole
I don't
argument
think
comes
it
down
solves
to
anything.
someone outside of you making a decision about your character.
More than just you. Yes. Until you're 21, then you can.
Yeah,
That's
I
right.
think- I just
Which
think-
happens
So what
anyway.
makes you mature at 21?
Not
What is your
that-
stand? Why is your
there's
arbitrary
no-
21
there's
any
no
better
guar-
than the arbitrary
There's
18?
no guarantee of that at any
Well,
point
there's
in anyone's life.
Well, then it's a silly law.
But
Because
it's
you're
not
saying,
a silly law.
You're saying move the arbitrary
Well, then
age
why not make
from
it
your
16?
argument. You're saying
Then
move
why
the
not make malicious 16?
Let me say, you're saying from the arbitrary age of 18 to the arbitrary
Yes.
age of 21 because Ward Crocker thinks it makes more sense.
It makes more
Wow,
sense
that's
for
a-
them to be able to have more time to mature, grow up, get a hold of their emotions. Hopefully. It's not perfect. There's
It's
no
just-
such law.
You've provided no other foundation for that except for, I think it's a good idea. There's no
What-
legal
what-
foundation.
what he's
there's
hoping,
no
what he's hoping that
practical,
happens. What he's hoping that
objective
happens is
measurement.
within those 3 years, something changes. Now I can say this.
Yes.
You-
And there
but
can
that's-
be a
but
lot of
that's- but
maturing that
That's hopeful.
happens.
That's hopeful.
It is hopeful.
My
I think it's wistful more than
Yeah.
hopeful.
Oh, it very well might be.
my perspective.
It
is,
very well might be.
My perspective is that there's some merit to it. I mean, if the whole goal is to make sure that someone deems you worthy, or in order to buy guns, I don't see any real reason to accept that standard. I'm just trying to hear where you're coming from to see your point.
That's fine.
I don't see any real reason to accept that standard. I think that in my perspective, if kids can join the military.
And that
I'm just
fails.
saying, you say it fails, but if kids
It does.
can join the military and go off and fight
Right.
wars,
And they can.
and go off and fight wars, and we don't have a problem because they're taking the business into their weapon.
Yeah,
over
although
there.
okay, here's the problem with that argument.
It is problematic.
Here's the problem with that. If you actually look at the way that's set up, those guys are not, those men and women that are joining and getting guns are not getting them access to them all the time.
Sure.
So even on military bases,
that is not true. You do.
they're not
Right.
allowed. They're not allowed to carry them on a military base.
They're not allowed to carry. They're actually on a military basis. People carry their own weapons.
They're not allowed to carry weapons on a
no,
base, which is what the problem was with the guy in
Well,
Texas that
that's-
came in and shoot her.
well,
They didn't
let
have
me
it.
say they're not allowed. They don't generally have ammunition for their weapons, but we have our weapons with us. A large. Well, I should say we. This is a long time ago. You have your weapons.
Yeah, but they
with
can't
you.
now.
You have your weapons
There's
with
a
you.
difference between when you were in the Stone Ages and
Stone
fighting the
Ages.
And
No,
why
I'm
is
serious.
that?
Because
And why-
that's why there's
Right.
Republicans that are mad
Right.
that after I think it was Obama era rules that they couldn't carry, and military people can't, because I've listened to the people
Well,
argue about this,
right.
that you're trusting them to go to fight, but they can't even carry on the base.
And listen, there's good believe it or not, there's actually good reasons for that. When I was in Saudi Arabia and when I was in a war zone,
they could carry.
Let me make my point. When I was in Saudi Arabia and I was in a war zone, when everybody had rifles and ammunition all the time, of course, in our barracks we had accidental fires where guys will accidentally fire off a round in the barracks. We had a guy actually playing around with his pistol, I think, got shot. So that actually happens quite a bit, and people don't want that happening on a regular basis. But it is not true that that Marine sailors and soldiers don't carry their weapons on base. They absolutely do. As a matter of fact, part of your routine.
But it has no ammo.
Yeah, it doesn't. Part of your routine is that you have your rifle with you and you're cleaning that thing. Especially if you're in the infantry, you have it with you quite a bit.
So allow them to buy a gun at 18, but no ammo.
But no ammo.
Then they'll be the same as
even if you have no ammo.
No, hold on. There's another reason why it breaks down.
Okay.
Person going in the military is offering their life in service of the country, as opposed to an angry teenager going down and buying one, and they're being vetted.
Angry teenagers go in the military.
They do go in the military, and what happens is they get drilled into them. They get trained. They're in a confined environment. You don't have that kind of setting.
And they get a rifle with no ammo.
Yeah, some of those teens never really.
But saying
the training
they go in
really
the military, which is fine, is not the same thing as saying, "Oh, well, now you go out and buy a weapon and now potentially go shoot up everybody." Those aren't the same scenarios.
You're conflating.
It's not even.
You're conflating the fact that people buy
rifles
with the fact that they're going to go and shoot up. You're assuming the consequent.
No, I'm assuming
the consequence,
possible.
and you're assuming that they're going to go and shoot up people. That is not true. I'm assuming one in like 10,000 or whatever.
I understand that it's rare.
It is rare.
I understand. I grant that. Yeah. I'm not assuming they're going to do that. I'm not assuming that whatsoever. I'm assuming that there is a very real possibility of this, and there's no harm in raising the age to 21, even the voting age to 21.
You just said two things that don't make sense.
That's what I'm saying.
It's very rare, but there's a real possibility.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you can't be both.
Oh, yes, it can. A real possibility can still be rare.
Yeah, but it's
a rare real possibility.
How many times does it have to happen for it to be a real possibility and not rare?
Okay, all those shootings that have happened,
right,
with of recent years,
right?
How many of those were from people 21 and under and 21 and over?
Most of them were 21 or over.
So it's more of a real possibility for people who are over 21 to buy a gun and go up and shoot somebody. So if the basis of your argument,
no.
Let me finish. If the basis of your argument is that, hey, it could happen between 18 and 21, let's stop those, which is less likely than if they're 21 or over, according to the actual statistics.
So then we should just raise the age to 23 or 25.
Okay, fine. Well, now, hold on.
But you're making an arbitrary thing.
No, hold on. You just did what you said was quite faulty. Just because it's rare doesn't mean it's not a real possibility.
Okay, so
you're wrong.
More likely.
That. No, I agree. It's more likely. I never said otherwise. You put poor words on my argument, and you actually misconstrued it. Just because it's less likely, and I grant that it is, doesn't mean it's not a real possibility. So you're wrong on that. You're wrong in saying that. That's not right.
Okay, I'll grant that it's a real less likely. It's really less likely than somebody over 21.
What's that?
It's far really less likely for somebody under 21 to do it.
It's far less likely. It's far less likely.
So you want to make an entire law to exclude a category of people
who are less likely
to actually do something
than people who are more likely.
I am.
That's a liberal argument there ever was
That's
one.
a totally emotionally based argument. It'll make me feel better to do this.
And he called my argument emotional.
I would not pass a law that'll have less impact on the future of shootings than a law that would have greater impact, but it'll make me feel better.
I didn't say it would make me feel better. Where did I say that?
Well, I don't know what other reason. What other reason is for it except that it makes you feel better?
Well, I think it's a wise move because of the lack of leadership and parenting and the broken family and the frustration.
So ultimately, it's time that will make the difference.
It's time that will make the difference.
So just give them a few more years.
No, it's the parents that make the difference. It's parents that make the difference.
Time changes everything.
No, parents will make the difference.
But you just said that they're lousy parents. They're just
I think a lot of them are lousy parents.
So they're lousy up until they turn 18, but somehow between 18 and 21, they'll get better.
Awesome.
No, not necessarily.
Well, what does that solve? By changing the age,
I already told you.
What does that solve?
I already told you. You have people like Arapahoe, Colorado. Guy goes out, he's angry.
It's a rare case.
I'm not saying it's not rare.
But it doesn't solve that issue because all it says is it solves a very rare case.
It does. It's very rare.
Ultimately,
as opposed to solving the more common cases.
I never said it solved all the common issues. I never said that. I never said that at all. I never said, suggested, or implied that whatsoever.
So ultimately, this argument is just meant to knock out those rare cases.
At least address those, yes.
Right, just those rare cases.
And be a slap in the face of parents.
The
general parents.
Well, ultimately, you're punishing...
Pass laws to slap parents.
There you go.
Ultimately, you're going to punish parents when...
No, not punishing parents.
Well, I mean, what I'm
It's
getting
not
at is
punishing the parents
ultimately, you want to punish the kid on the basis of how bad a parent he is, which is the argument that I talked about last week. You're going to punish the kid because he doesn't even have good parents, or he has bad parents, or he has no parents, and he doesn't have an uncle. So you're going to punish the kid, and that's just not right. I'm going to tell you, if you look at statistics, and I wish I'd have brought some here to buttress my point, people that are young who've had access to guns, more than likely, based on statistics, have defended themselves from people who wish to do them harm.
Which is why they need to be trained how to use them and be able to own them.
Regardless of whether they're trained,
responsible.
The reality is people who are
training
young,
has nothing to do with 18 and 21.
Yeah, people who are young have defended themselves from intruders and people who meant to injure them, who are under 18.
Absolutely. That's why I fully agree with raising kids
But you're saying to those kids, because you've had bad parents, no one outside of you to defend you, that you're going to remove their protection from them.
So here's what I would say is, instead of passing a law that is meaningless, that does nothing except make Crocker feel better, based on nothing other than the fact there's you haven't cited any case law that validates that is even possible.
And you use an arbitrary standard.
You've replaced one arbitrary standard according to you tonight. Now let me finish. You like to finish? I want to finish. You replace one arbitrary age range with another arbitrary age range. Okay. Assume the miracle of maturity will happen in those 3 years with no other bias.
No.
I would go for an intelligent law that actually would say this: if anybody going to buy, regardless of age,
they have to go through some kind of training.
They have to go through a specific set of rigorous training to be afforded the opportunity to go through those training for that specific kind of weaponry. So whether it's a pistol or a rifle, whatever it is, the law would require some sort of training.
But the law isn't discriminating against them on the basis of their age. It's just on the basis of their training.
I would make that argument based on actual facts.
Right.
That in Israel, no, it's true. In Israel, of course, they have a lot more gun ownership and stuff, and I was hearing somebody make this argument. But they require a certain degree of specific training to go along with it. So we see a case analysis of something very specific that's not so rare, that's actually more frequently used, that could impact a larger population set. Because what that would do, by requiring that, would not just get to the rare, exceptional case of somebody between 18 and 21.
Right.
So, he's so condescending. It's like he's not even listening because he's ready to rebut.
I am ready to rebut because I have a good rebuttal.
You're ready to rebut, though, before I ever finish. So how can you even make an intelligent assessment of what I'm saying?
You'll have to find out. Go ahead.
Typical arguing people who have no idea what... Don't base an argument on what I'm arguing. Base it on what you've already figured out how to respond before I even finish making the case.
See that? He's critiquing something I haven't even said, and so he's doing the very thing he claims is wrong. He's doing the very thing he claims is wrong. I'm waiting for you. I'm saying, okay.
But your point... But Joe, your point...
He already knows the answer, so...
Well, Joe, but your point, what it does is it doesn't discriminate against the age of the individual. It discriminates against their ability to handle weapons. And that makes
I'm not even concerned necessarily about the age discrimination. I think it would impact a larger segment of it and actually have more meaningful impact on a more more common situation.
And everyone could. I think everyone could agree. I think every reasonable people would agree with training. Even if I was an NRA dude, I would agree that the young people need training. They need to know how to handle a weapon.
You might bring up an irrelevant, and obviously it's going to be irrelevant because, I mean, you said it was going to be
So
irrelevant.
far, that's the only thing we have.
Yeah, and from what you're saying, too. So, anyway, and mischaracterizing my arguments. So, So, what you're doing is you want to have the training be required. Right. For people before they can own a gun. Say someone who's like 29, some single gal who now has a stalker on her tail, but so she can't just go out and buy a gun now. So now she has to go out and buy a gun and get the background check.
They already have that anyway.
Right. That's already
the law. No. But that's
already the law.
But now she has to get training.
That's already the law.
The training?
No, the background check.
I understand
mandatory time.
Yeah, it is. It's a problem as far as how long it is. But I agree background checks, but not the length of it is a problem. So now that she has to get training. So how long does it take to get training? She has to take training, physical training, take a test, do all this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's going to
do that with people driving cars.
They do that with driving cars, but wait a minute. You said there would be a higher impact here, and I agree there would be to a point, but now you're adding more time for someone who actually needs...
that's an assumption.
Trust me, let him finish. Let him finish.
Oh,
trust me.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, nice, James. So you want to add more time for someone whose life's going to be in danger, which often happens many times with women, with these people.
Let him finish. Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead.
I did. So
it?
why don't you go ahead and refute it?
So here's what I'm saying.
No, he just argued our point.
So
he just literally argued our point.
You also put words. You mischaracterized the argument intentionally.
No, not intentionally.
Or maybe because you were busy and didn't pay attention.
Okay, here we go.
You said add time to the length of time. I never said add time. No. You said add time.
I'm asking,
which is an assumption on your part that would be necessary.
If you want them to be trained, how does it not add time?
Well, you didn't ask that question. You said you want to pass a law that adds more time. You said it as a declarative, not as a question.
But notice the whole point now has shifted to our original point. He's really arguing our view for no training now, nothing.
Oh, I didn't say that.
But you just argued against that view. So you really are arguing our view now. So you really agree with us.
So you think you think more mystical untrained time between 18 and 21
is better than
but then actual real time added to it that actually has something of substance. Well, that doesn't make a difference. That would be terrible. No, but adding 3 years is okay.
Adding 3 years is okay.
He's just arguing our point.
I'm not saying they can't own one. Okay, I am saying that, and I agree with background checks, but I want you to show that, hey, if you're going to be adding this training, it's going to add time.
No, it's not.
I think
I would argue this. Because one, I can't say that it does or does not add time.
Yes,
because
go ahead.
Yes, you can.
Oh, yes, you can.
I just want it to be noted. See how he doesn't listen, but he certainly knows all the answers.
Then you listen.
I don't know. I would be agnostic about whether time would be added or not because I don't know. Because just like you, neither of us have spent time studying the duration of wait periods or whatever for every state. Do you know the wait period in every state? What's the wait period for?
Do I know the wait period in every state? No, but I do know this.
That's what I don't.
No. I do know that. Let me finish. This is what I do know. As far as being able to own guns here in California, being able to go down and take an exam. There is time involved in that where you have to take down the book. Oh, that's adding time.
Oh, I just said yes. And he's like interrupting my yes.
But no. You said we don't know if it adds time. We know it adds time. Yeah, so but don't deny that it doesn't add time.
But assuming the two can't be done concurrently.
Right.
Why can't they be done concurrently?
But you're saying,
so while you're waiting for background checks and waiting for...
You're talking about 2 weeks versus 3 years. The whole point is, as far as waiting time.
You're saying 3 years. We're saying add 2 weeks. You're saying that's irrational.
That's insane.
No. What you're saying, what you said before was this makes much more sense. It helps a lot more people out, right?
It does.
Be able to do that.
Which it does.
Well, that does not solve the problem of those who actually need a gun right away. Women who are going to be mishandled, or mistreated.
Yeah, but for a woman in that case, let's deal with California to get a concealed carry permit.
I'm not talking concealed carry.
Any kind
of. Well, where else would she carry it if she has a stalker?
It's got to be concealed.
Keep it in her house?
Yes.
Well, she's not nowhere else.
You asked California about that. They can't. Do you understand how limited it is to have concealed carry here in California?
That's what my exact point was just now. If you ever listen to me finish things.
No.
The point is in California is extremely difficult to get any concealed carry.
Yeah, I know.
The training would not be the time factor for a woman who is being stalked in California. The problem would be the amount of time it takes and the almost impossibility it takes to get a concealed carry permit. Training wouldn't add any time to that because it's almost impossible to get one as it is in California.
So then it's irrelevant to even have the training or whatever because she can't have it with her anyway.
Well, that's not the point of the whole conversation. Well, I do not control that part of the law of
if
California.
You're going to bring that up as an argument against, then I'm going to bring up the other one where if they actually could have a concealed carry right away.
No, your argument against training was that a woman who's being stalked who needs to protect herself. That's your argument against training. That she needs it like the same day. Well, first of all, nobody gets it the same day. And second of all, in California, it's virtually impossible to get it. And you have to prove that your life is in danger.
That you need it. And by the time you prove it, if somebody's trying to kill you.
So if she could establish that.
Or if you carry money or something like that. If your job warrants it or whatever you do.
So an argument against training is not that it's the ability to get one in California is irrational. That's a separate issue.
And California
is irrational.
irrational.
So you can't use that as an argument against training. That's two different things.
The argument for the training issue simply pertain to what you were saying regarding having the training and therefore saying...
We're so far afield from our original point.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Well, that's all right.
But here we are.
Right.
The point is, 3 years is what you're saying, and we're saying at least be trained. There's got to be.
And I'm actually okay with training, believe it or not.
Okay, so if you take away... So if the 17-year-old or the whatever... goes through training,
yes,
and they're able to use guns, or if the 15 or 16-year-old, right, they take the training. Well, we shouldn't. Technically, I don't think I would have a problem with that, simply because we make people get some kind of training to drive a car.
Many states have a 30-day waiting period.
Right,
that's they call it a cool-off period,
right.
so that somebody can't buy one when they're angry and get it. So in 30 days, you could do the training. That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't have a problem if people were mandating training. I wouldn't.
Mandating training is for even like 16-year-old and up.
Mandating
I'm
training.
fine with that.
They're mandating training.
Then we all agree. I don't know why we're arguing.
Yeah,
that was a bad idea.
Right. It was a total bad idea to make them wait 3 years. We totally agree with that.
I am great with that.
So the
point is, Ward now agrees with what I said. Thank you.
But raising it to 21 to buy is just fine.
Which is still silly.
Okay.
That's fine.
It's still arbitrary and irrational.
They're all arbitrary times. They are even if it's on the books, it doesn't make it less arbitrary.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
You come back with legal precedent that establishes that you can do that.
No. There is
some
no
sort of foundation.
There is no legal precedent for that.
There's no reason
that's
to do
irrelevant.
it.
Well, that's how we do things in a nation.
No. You
think the lack of legal precedent is irrelevant in the law?
I do think it's irrelevant because sometimes they make laws to make legal precedents. So that is not relevant. You don't do anything. Legal precedent is some of it, but not all of it.
His point is...
Okay, well, I will tell you in my short time of studying constitutional law, which I actually did in my undergrad.
Congratulations.
Legal precedent does have some bearing,
despite
the fact you think it has not.
Oh, no.
Everybody go back.
I did not say
there's no precedent.
That's not what I said.
We have a good topic.
You're mischaracterizing once again.
No,
that's your
not.
classic.
This is a good segue. This is a good
I'm
segue.
going to go back. I'm going to make a clip of what
I know, but this is a good
don't
segue.
Don't mischaracterize like that.
I don't
That's
have
not
to.
cool.
This is a good segue.
That's not cool, man.
Anybody can watch it and see.
This is a good segue to Christian privilege.
Oh, you got that article too?
No, you did.
Christian privilege.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is good because I was going to talk about this.
All right. Christian privilege. So the privilege...
Excellent segue. I have no idea.
The privilege of Joe being able to just declare himself the victor. And
you agreed with what I said. That makes me the victor now.
There you go. Anyway,
we still disagree about the other one. I didn't say I'm a victor in that one. I just think we disagree.
Yeah, well,
in your idea, we still disagree. Although 2-1, you're wrong. But in the idea of training, we all three agree that that's good. So that's all I said.
As long as it's not 3 years and they're not, some arbitrary standard, and everybody has.
It's all arbitrary standards.
But training isn't arbitrary. Training is
no. You can have a rational standard that's not arbitrary. You can have one based on studies and research.
Training is
the age limit is arbitrary. The age limit is arbitrary.
Okay, but we said but he's talking about the training being based on some standard.
Yeah.
And you said that's all arbitrary.
No, I was referring to the ages as all arbitrary.
Okay.
The training is not. So
not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Again, because I said there's already a law that's tied to militia law.
I understand that, but even that was an arbitrary age.
I don't know that because I haven't read the full law. Have you?
I don't have to. I don't. No, I have not. But I don't think I have to.
Then you can't say it's arbitrary without reading.
Christian privilege. We'll be going back.
Because what's 17 versus 18? Yeah. What's the difference? What happens?
I don't know.
Okay,
because you're claiming to know that there is none without reading it. I'm just saying I'm agnostic about it.
Your claim is saying it's not arbitrary because it's in the law.
I'm saying you can't know that it's No, I said you can't say that it's arbitrary, just like I can't say that it's not arbitrary because I haven't read the law. To know what the reason-
Corey will be happy. He will be totally happy.
Corey's going to be very happy about
He'll
that.
be totally happy. Your wife says Corey will be happy because you guys are disagreeing.
That's right.
Corey will totally be happy.
Don't put words in my mouth. That's what words are. I
That's
said,
right. Yeah.
I'll listen carefully and I'll tell you exactly what I said.
Great. Thank you.
I said, I don't know if I don't know if that's arbitrary. I'm saying it's based on a law that I have not read, so I can't.
Okay.
I don't know inside of that law
Right.
why 18 was chosen. I can't say specifically that that's arbitrary or not. I don't know, so I won't say whether it is or is not based on what's inside that law.
Right.
I don't know
Okay.
if studies
Fair.
were done to establish that.
Right.
You say declaratively it is arbitrary without having read it. I'm saying I don't have. I don't think that
Fine.
has.
We'll go
integrity.
read it and we'll find out how arbitrary it is.
Well, then we'll know.
Right.
But you can't say you.
But you
know.
can't
You're
say that
saying-
ahead of time.
You're claiming to
Whoa.
know something. What is the basis? What does it mean to know something, Word Crocker?
Okay. Well,
You're
here,
claiming to have
just-
knowledge
Okay,
that
Joe.
it is arbitrary.
Okay, Joe Miller. Here we go. All right. That's right. And here's the basis for it. Because age limits are typically arbitrary anyway. All right. As far as like declaring
Typical. But I'm
Okay.
saying in this law, you said this law that I cited, that I mentioned,
let me
is
finish.
arbitrary.
I know. Yes, I am. I'm explaining. If you want to stop talking for a minute, be enjoying your voice, the sound of your voice, and the enjoyment thereof
He's a South Pole elf.
is overwhelming your ability to be able to think. All right. So
Wow.
and listen. So
Christian privilege.
so
is
Suzanne, we have lots of compassion for you.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
That was awesome.
Way to
Yeah.
bring the wife into it.
Well, she's online.
She's online. Listen.
So I didn't bring her in.
So Christian privilege. This is a good point
Okay,
because I had this
tied to
actually.
my married life.
No, well, just
okay.
because she said that.
Okay.
So,
All right.
anyway, if that
No,
was
I see where we went now.
If that was too personal, I apologize. I did
All
not.
right.
I did not mean to do that. So, arbitrary time as far as ages go. All right, 16 years old as far as like being able to drive. Why not 15? Why not 17? 18 years old for voting. 21 for drinking. These ages are arbitrary. There's a large extent that it's arbitrary. That's the only. You wanted to know why? I would say it would be arbitrary. That's what I'm saying. Have I read it? No.
You have absolute knowledge. You're correct. Move on.
Oh my gosh! That's not. that's at least a fair. Yeah. She replied in support. That's at least a fair basis for it, even without reading it.
Okay,
All
so
right,
Christian privilege. This is a good story because I actually had this as one of my stories.
Okay, George Washington University is hosting a seminar on combating Christian privilege in America.
That's almost like age privilege, but go ahead.
Yes.
I'm going to bring it full circle.
Oh, see, it's a multicultural center, student services center at George Washington University is hosting Christian privilege, but our founding fathers were all Christian, right? So with that, according to the website of the associate director and LGBTQ resources director, Timothy Kane, wants to discuss how American Christians have easier lives and get built-in advantages over non-Christians, as well as making room for all religious and secular identities on an equal playing field.
Is there such a thing as Christian privilege?
Apparently there is. It's in writing. And
No, but
Does he define what?
No, he.
well, okay, okay.
Qualifies that?
To be fair, this is as far as I can tell. All they've done is they've announced this is what they're going to be
It's a
talking
class-
about.
They talked about it in the news this morning.
They've announced it, and I'm not sure that the people have come out and said all the content that's in it.
Right.
Okay. And also Nancy Piercy had this listed
They
on hers, and I read it.
They talked
and it was,
about whether
announcing what it
Christians,
is.
whether the laws were such that Christians got a built-in privilege for being Christian, and they were really asking, isn't it time that we do away with Christian privileges in America?
right.
Isn't it
Okay.
time? So they've assumed that if you're a Christian, America is automatically favorable.
Is that saying because the laws are rooted in some sort of Judeo-Christian ethic?
They haven't
Is
made that statement, but you have to assume that that's the
If
case.
that's what they're saying, like, adultery laws or
They're-
probably gay marriage
They're going
laws
to
or
tie it to
whatever.
something else. I think you're on the right track, but according to this, I think they're going to tie it to something else. A little bit has been said in this article.
Is the answer Jesus?
You would think not.
Because Jesus is
Because
always
they're
the
also
answer.
going to talk about... where was it?
I'm going to check all these little
No,
comments.
there's your wife.
I know. I can't see that, but I'm going to check her. While you're looking at it, I'm looking at my wife's comments.
Well, here's a question. Here's a better question. Do you think that there is a Christian privilege in
I'm sorry.
America? Do you think that there is?
Oh, man.
I don't know that there is. I don't know.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just asking
Yeah,
because
I
this
don't-
is an
I
arbitrary
don't
question
know.
to me.
Other seminar. Okay, I wanted to talk about other seminars offered by this is heterosexual privilege, cis privilege, oblit body privilege, socioeconomic privilege, but get this, here it is. Students will learn about, regarding the first one we talked about, white privilege specifically, and the role of denial when it comes to white privilege in reference to this Christian privilege. So it's actually going back to white privilege. But they are willing to talk about other privileges. So I just want to bring that up before we move on. But to your question.
Because this is one. Every time I hear the privilege thing, I go back to some of the discussions we've had in the past about power, and how these comments are all rooted in power. Even the very fact that you're going to have a discussion, let's say, on cisgender privilege, the whole concept is about power. It's asking, why is it that the country is oriented toward favoring this one segment of people, and it assumes the answer in it that the country is
I just
I know.
Take his side.
I know.
Ouch. She's like, you tell him more. And I was like, ouch, take his side.
Inside. So
And I was just trying to lighten it up by saying that.
I'm going to block Suzanne Miller. I can block her.
Oh no!
Block my wife.
So it's already assumes that by using the word white privilege or Christian privilege, that it assumes the answer, and that if you accept that assumption, then the right thing to do is to level the playing field, which is to get rid of any kind of privileges for anyone. And
So have everybody under. Everyone has to be poor. Everyone has to be what?
Well, it's in my opinion, I'll just say it's a dumb statement. First of all, and I'm just going to pull this one out arbitrarily. I mean nothing in pulling out. But let's say we lived under Islamic law. The question is, would there be any freedoms what freedoms do we have today would carry under Islamic laws? Very few.
Well,
Then
that's
we
funny that it's the LGBTQ group that's bringing this up. If they had Sharia as opposed to non-Christian,
then there would be they would be getting
they'd
thrown
be
off of
throwing
roofs.
them off buildings.
Like they're doing in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq. They were throwing people off a building. It's just
what it comes down to is, we've talked about it before. This is just, instead of white privilege or Christian privilege, all these things are based on this sort of we talked about was I can't think of his name right now. But anyway,
Bell critical race theory.
No.
Or
Niebuhr. We talked about Niebuhr. Remember also, and he's talking about the idea of power.
Right.
And it's like whoever's in power has to be taken out of power by those out of power. All this comes down to a power issue. They're just coming up with another for Niebuhr, because he's a Marxist. It was those who had wealth have to be taken out by those who don't have wealth. For him it was like class privilege. Mm-hmm. And you read Niebuhr's book, as we read some of those quotes. He just replaced Niebuhr's privilege, class privilege, with white privilege, or you replace it with Christian privilege. They're just adding a new modifier in terms of the word privilege, but it's the same basic argument about power.
Here's the question, though.
I know you're leaving messages.
Where does this all end up? I mean, seriously, if we continue down this road, you can't block me, babe. This is what she said. If we continue down this road, where does this all end up? I mean,
down the road, the white. That's very...
No, not just the white.
Suzanne says, I'm a Christian, and I'm privileged to know all three of you. Thank you.
But where does this all end
up? I'm not sure that's what the article is talking about, but I'm privileged as well.
That's awesome. I mean, very nice statement.
The privilege is ours.
Yes. What is
to admit it?
Yes. Where does this all end up, though? I mean, if we're My wife said this to me, asked me this question here yesterday. She said, where does this all go? I mean, if you want to dispute everything that makes us who we are, you want to tear down statues from the past, you want to do away with any kind of distinctions between any of us. You want to say that there's no more binary or gender or anything. There's no more male or female. We're all androgynous, male or female, or male and female, whatever. There's no more distinctions anywhere. Where does this all end up? I mean, so ultimately, it's almost like this. The women are saying, the women's rights are saying that women can be and do anything, right? They're even saying that a man can be a woman. But ultimately, that does away with what it means to be a woman. It's just all
there's
silliness.
There's an internal conflict between it all. It's like, say, okay, 60% of men have this job and only 40%, therefore it's unfair.
Right.
Well, that assumes that all those people that are men are not self-identified as men. What if they identify as women? Would that count as something?
Now you have...
Right. So it's like this internal conflict where it's trying to argue that this is wrong to have more men or women in this, on one hand, and then on the other hand, they want to argue there's no difference between men and women.
There really are there aren't more women who are nurses than men,
right?
Because there are really no genders. Or
and
whatever.
Here's the point:
right.
you need a particular worldview that makes sense of the world, that doesn't just force people into categories, but really respects people as real persons,
mm-hmm.
and respects identities. Now, you need a worldview like Christianity, which does that, right? That does respect people, helps people fit into roles, doesn't force you into a role, but helps you fit into a role and understand where you fit it at. Where these other ideologies that they want to bring in totally does away with what it means to be a man. LGBT does away with what it means to be a man or a woman. It does away with it. Women's feminism does away with what it means. Does away with what it means to be a woman. I mean, ultimately, these...
Does away with it means being 18 or 21.
Yeah, but that's wardism.
LGBTQ ward. Add him to the end. He's got his own.
So if this whole point is it's doing away with what it means to be us as a people, I think it does ultimately end that way.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is that there's not really... It's not based on making a coherent, logical argument for something. It's based on a power argument against something. Mm-hmm. So the reason that these other groups will always side with, like, say, oh, you can't say Sharia law is evil or wrong, and you can't outlaw, like Oklahoma passed a law that said, years ago, that you can't have Sharia law enforced in the courts. And, of course, all these liberal groups say, oh, that's wrong, and it's discrimination, and it's racism, and all these other things.
Well, it's discrimination. It's saying that idea is bad.
Yeah. Again,
it's saying it's a bad idea.
Genitalia mutilation, stuff like that.
Well, exactly. Well, therein lies the problem.
Discrimination is not bad. We should discriminate.
They defend that, though, not because they think Sharia is good. They defend it because they think it will take Christians out of power.
Exactly.
And anything that takes... what they say, oh, you're Christians, you need to be taken out of power, will be good. Because, it's Sun Tzu's The Art of War. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so we ally with these groups for now.
So
this group's out of power. And then as soon as that group's out of power, then they'll fight the next battle to take the next group out of power. Mm-hmm. Because it's not based on a set of coherent logical arguments they don't really think some of the things that they think are right or wrong. They just are using it as an argument of convenience.
It sounds like the Democrats, wanting more folks that are not legal in the country, so that they could vote. This whole point now, the Democrats being mad over the census. What are they mad about the census for? Because you use the census. If you count everybody in the census, that means that in Pennsylvania, California, all these places that are disputing, you get more seats, more delegate seats. But the administration wants you to count citizens, which would lessen their power, would lessen the amount of seats their portion, would lessen the amount of funds that those states are getting. So the Democrats are right now saying the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Of course they want to use illegal immigrants and count them in the rolls because they get power from that. And then they want to paint you racist for denying them that power.
And both parties have done that.
Oh, well, of course they
traded
have.
in that
Yeah,
forever.
of course they have.
You know,
of course they have.
And
But
I'm just making. I know it's predominantly. I'm just saying that too because people, we're equal opportunity abusers of both parties who are based on power,
no
keeping
party's
power.
pure.
No party's
exactly.
pure.
They both abuse power. Now, differently for different reasons.
For different reasons, right?
And it's different groups usually for different reasons.
Right.
You know.
So let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I'm always hot about the Democrats. I can do that because
which is really hard to tell during the presidential election. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I wasn't. Notice I wasn't really rooting for the Democrats there either.
You weren't saying anything. You were silent
about them. Yeah, because I thought we were making an egregious error by putting an unqualified individual in charge over us. I thought we were making an egregious error there. My main problem against the Democrats is they hurt black people. Period. Point blank. End of story. Barbara Jordan, and I think in 1995, did a study on illegal immigration, and her commission found that illegal immigration hurts poor black, brown, and white people.
And in what ways? How?
Because
specifically.
Well, watch this. If you're poor and you're black and you're white or brown, generally you lack the skill sets to get jobs that can pay a lot of money. So you get a lot of these jobs that are low-skilled, low-wage jobs. Well, when you bring in illegal immigrants into the country and you let them into the cities, they're competing with you for these low-skilled, low-wage jobs so that you don't have access to the same jobs, and you live here and you were born here, and they have imported people here to compete with you for those jobs, and then ultimately what they do is they have you voting against your own interests. Barbara Jordan found that these policies hurt poor black, brown, and white people. They just do. So I think, as a person who loves America and a person who loves Americans, that Americans need to have those jobs. They were born here. They were raised here. They have their lives rooted here. I'm not anti-immigrant. I love immigrants. I'm anti-illegal immigrant in the sense that you're only importing these people as a means of power. You're using these people, and you're causing hate and discontent between people on the ground. A great example of this, and you can Google this, is just look at the Marietta, the events that happened in Marietta, I think probably about 7 or 8 years ago when they were busing people into Marietta, and you had poor black... California, yeah. You had poor black, white, and brown people that were against that. Even Mexican people were against that because they realized that when you bring folks in and you just let them into the cities, that they're competing against these other people for jobs. And I wrestle with it because I want to be compassionate on all people, but we can't take care of everybody. If we're going to bring people into the country, we need to bring them in the right way. The best thing that we can do is solve the problem, our immigration problem, so that we can adjudicate people who come into the country fairly. But to just have the Democrats import these people in to take away the rights of natural-born citizens is just wrong. And then to have them complain about the census where they're going to gain benefit over bringing these people in is just madness. It's just madness. So ultimately what they're doing is they're importing people into the country to gain power, which is just unfair. Just totally unfair, and it's not right. So although we're going to see everybody does it, one group is more skilled at doing it than the other.
No, I just say that to qualify that this is not specifically... It's
I understand.
Objection based on specific reasons,
right?
Not
because we're citing
Republican or Democrat.
No, that's not my point at all.
And anybody who might be...
it isn't my point at all. Yeah, I got
That's the reason I brought that up, was because your objection is not based on
I'm going to be honest and say I'm really biased. I'm really biased because I grew up in Southwest Philadelphia. I see how these people work. When I went to my first presidential election, there was a guy outside of the booth. And you know what he was saying? He told me when I went, I'll never forget this. He told me I better vote. He said, you better vote right. That's what he told me. I guarantee you I was the only black person in Southwest Philadelphia that voted for Reagan. If there was one Reagan vote that came out, it was mine. I voted for Ronald Reagan.
I think there was actually.
There's probably one.
That
dude told me.
So it was you.
He looked at me. It was me. He looked at me and told me I better vote right.
His home address.
From that day forward, I started to think this is not about.
The NSA is actually scanning this recording right now, and they're pulling that in. And it's gone into some sort of record now that you've been discovered.
The DNC is going, okay, now how do we miss that guy?
We found it.
How do we get that guy there? We found him. And my point is, I just honestly think that these folks, right or left, they're really trying to do away with what it means to be American. And that value that we all have as citizens. It doesn't make us better than anyone.
Which is what used to unify us.
Yeah.
Now you take that away. What is it to unify?
We're just a bunch of
Anger.
balkanized state.
It's the argument I made, and not to bring up another contentious issue, but I will. With the whole kneeling in the NFL thing,
right.
And so I had family that was upset about this, or whatever, and I made a post about this, and I said, look, and they just assumed my thing was you're opposing somebody. I don't care if they kneel or not. My whole point was, in the sense that they have a right, whatever, I don't care, whatever. But the point I was trying to make in that was not that, it was their place of work or whatever. I said, look, the fact is, if you have something like the flag, which is a symbol that has different meaning to different people. Anything is. It's a symbol. So therefore you impute meaning to a symbol. It's not doesn't have inherent value or worth, whether it's the flag or a song or anything like that. So we impute that meaning. So if you're saying that the flag stands for racism, there I'm going to take a knee, then you're saying that anyone who does stand, therefore, in your view, supports that.
Which is nonsense.
It automatically creates a divide that is insurmountable, that you cannot cross. Because you're imputing the meaning. You're saying my meaning, therefore, stands for everybody's meaning. The problem with that is that historically what people says, I recognize there's racism, or I recognize that there's injustice. But I'm going to stand for this because I think the flag stands for, I want it to stand for those
Justice,
that are
equality.
opposed to an equality.
Sure.
So even though there is bad stuff, I stand for this knowing that I believe it stands for something better than that. And so what I argued was, look, what you're doing is when you take a knee, you're making room for the racist to say, aha, I knew that flag represented me. Mm-hmm. As opposed to when you stand, it marginalizes the racist because then they say there's no room for my view in meaning in that flag. And so ultimately it strips that foundation. In a secular pluralistic society, you have to have some basis for unity.
Right.
And if you can't just pick a symbol like the flag or the anthem as that foundational point,
this thing that we don't divide,
then we lose.
We have none.
We have complete fraction.
And here's this is such a great point, because my argument against the people who are for it is you spit on the one thing that unifies us. The thing that unifies us.
Or potentially, you're right.
You spit on it and you say that it is of no value.
Yep.
You cannot then turn around and look to people and say to people, care about what I care about. Because you just said to those people, the thing that they care about, forget it. I don't care about it. The thing that unifies us, that says to me...
It's only your message, not them.
It says to me that I ought to care about you because you're my neighbor, and I ought to care about your views because you're my neighbor. Yep. You're just saying that thing is meaningless. It's valueless. We don't have to respect it. It's the very fact that we have that thing that unifies us all that says, not only do I need to respect you, that if you're in a car burning on fire and I have the ability to get you out of it, we're Americans. We're in this together. I should risk my life for you. You know what I mean? I should try to get you out of that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't mean that to you. And if you're going to make it not mean that, then what is it that brings us all together? I mean, is it humanity? You don't even agree that... Some of us don't even agree that black people are human or white people are human or Mexican people. What is it then?
That's the problem. Yeah.
What is it then? If we can't agree on this one thing, this simple thing.
Yeah.
We certainly can't agree on...
301.
Yeah.
We certainly can't agree on whether it's arbitrary.
We started 2 minutes late, so we have 1 minute left.
We certainly can't agree on
I have
whether
a meeting at 3.
Yeah, okay. Well,
so, you guys
Crocker has
finish?
to go.
No.
All right. You guys finish?
And
let everyone know how long I am.
No, go ahead. We're going to do that.
We're gonna close up. That's fine.
Right.
We'll close a minute early because Ward already told me he had to go to a meeting. So, hey, next Wednesday back, 2:00, and we should be here for everybody. Thanks all.
Bye.